All righty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another weekly update. Hope everybody had a lovely week and is having a lovely weekend. And with that being said, let's dive into the TA. All right, guys, so last week we did end up getting the pump and dump that we talked about the week before. So if you go back to the last weekly update, last weekend we dropped that. That title was actually pump and dump. All right, so expect the pump and dump. We got a pump and dump. We're now, getting the dump part of that. And, I know things look real bearish coming into the week, but I'm telling you, we're probably going to start off with a dead cat bounce. I'm going to go over in this video why I think that is probably going to be the case. I'll try and run through things as quick as possible. We're going to kick it off with the indices here. Go over the indices. We'll go over the Mag 7 stocks. And then I have over 10 trade ideas at the end of the video just for you. All right, so let's run through it. So first things first, guys, we did start getting that larger VIX spike. It did start. I do think we're probably going to get a dead cat bounce on the broad market to start off the week. And that means VIX is probably going to end up cooling off a bit here, okay? So expect that thing to happen. Expect that to cool off. If it does not become the case, okay, and you do see the daily RSI get above 70, just know within 2 to 3 sessions, it's likely to start coming back down. Doesn't mean a major top is being put in there on VIX, all right? But it does tell you that, volatility is probably going to be crushed, okay? So, once you see this thing above 70, that's not usually where you want to be putting on shorts in the market because you're probably going to get a pretty sick, nasty dead cat bounce where you then end up getting, something like this, okay? It's, something exactly like this. Now, going back, you could literally go back to VIX's inception. This is something that, unless you're getting a full-on market crash like the 2020 or, 2008, .com, unless you're getting one of these, this condition will hold up. This is 2020 over here. You could see how the daily RSI did get above 70, and it was not coming down within 2 to 3 sessions. It did not. It took a little bit longer there. All right, now a condition, a little golden tidbit here, a condition that does hold up since VIX's inception is if you get the weekly RSI in overbought territory and then it starts hinging back down underneath the 70 line, then you have a VIX top 100% of the time. That is a condition that holds every single time. All right, so that is something. But as far as the daily RSI goes, all right, if you do see this thing just not pull back and it just gets above 70, even if that happens after a pullback, if you see the daily RSI get above 70, expect that within a few sessions, that is going to be coming down. All right, now over here, we had our, Trump manufactured crash going on, and we could see you hit that condition, you got above 70 on this day right here. You had 2 days until VIX topped. All right, and then started having the pullback. So I'm just telling you guys, within 2 to 3 sessions, unless you're getting a full-blown market crash like 2020, all right, something where the market is actually melted down, not something we have right now. We just push up to new all-time highs. We're not having a market crash. Let's be real about it. But yeah, unless it's crashing, which we know we're not having right now, then we know this is a condition that holds. Okay, so be watching for that. If you see the daily RSI get above 70, expect within 2 to 3 sessions that you're going to have a little top there on VIX, and you're going to be pulling back. You're going to get volatility being crushed, which means, in the short term, yeah, if you're trying to short the lows, it's kind of telling you over the next few sessions, you're going to probably get a dead cat bounce on the indices, and that would be that. All right, so we're going to talk about in this video our path for, where we think the indices are going to be going, how they're going to be moving. But I'm going to start off with VIX, guys. We did get over 1948. That was our level for a larger VIX spike to happen. To point out, you had the bullish engulfing candlestick here on Thursday coming into Friday. We finally got the daily close above the 21 EMA. We got rejected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So we finally got a daily close above there. So, that's a change of character. Oh, the next day we have a 20% spike. Who would have thought? Okay, so there was that. We did have a solid close over here to the weekly candle. All right, and I do think we do have a larger VIX spike on our hands here, and it goes one of 2 ways. You either get this, okay, maybe we get up to 30 here. It's pretty quick. All-time highs on the indices comes, we're talking within a few days after our weekly open there. Okay, maybe by Wednesday or Thursday, VIX is up here, and then boom, you just see a big old VIX crush that happens for quite some time, okay? As everything, works its way back up from all-time highs where they're at, SPY and QQL. We'll go over the levels in a sec. All right, or, so you get that scenario where it's the giant pump and dump, okay? Or We're going to do what I think is more probable. We're going to get this pullback here to start off the week. We don't want to get under 1785. If you get underneath 1785, you got to hold the daily 21. If you see this cloud flip back to red, guys, all right, we've been red for quite some time. You had a false breakout over here, all right, but as we see, boom, it flipped back to red, boom, VIX was done. All right, it wasn't moving. So if we see that happen, if the cloud goes from green to red real quick here, yeah, you know, all of what we're talking about, it's out the window here. VIX is going to probably come back down to these lows, 1474, okay? All right, so two scenarios, either pull back to start off the week, and it's going to be dead cat bound in the indices, you know, and then VIX ends up, you know, spiking after that, or we just continue the spike. We get the daily RSI above 70, like I was saying, within 2 to 3 sessions, we probably have a at least a short-term VIX top where we're going to see a volatility crush. Okay, so there's going to be that. That's how we're going to be watching VIX over here. But I think for the time being, I do think a dead cat bounce to start off the week is the most probable scenario. Okay, so let's go over things. You guys see what I'm talking right here. So these are really my two probable scenarios here. I'm not saying we are going to be pushing back up the highs, but I think it's possible if we do end up seeing price push up to new highs here on SPY and QQQ this week, and VIX is not underneath the daily 21 EMA, which is right around 1680 right now. If that's not under there, then I do think we are probably going to see those new highs get sold into, and then boom, we just resume the selling. That is how I think that would go. That's not the most probable scenario. That is unlikely, but I will tell you it's possible. My most probable scenario is we start the week off with this dead cat bounce there. All right, it's going to look something like that. We got a little upper wick, maybe coming all the way up to 563.87 gap, and then we end up selling into the second half of the week. And while everybody and their mothers are getting super bearish, okay, your boy Henry over here is going to remind you, guys, we called for the freaking pump and dump coming into the week before the pump and dump happened. Okay, we got a nice track record on this channel. If you're not new to the channel, then you know, guys, honestly, we do get, we're going to say like 85% of our things right. Okay, you know, it doesn't really matter what ticker. Sometimes the market wants to do what it wants to do, and sometimes we're a little bit early. But I'll tell you right now, you know, we had puts being loaded up, tens of millions over there, IW and SPY, every single day for, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks. All right, I was telling you guys about the whole time we're up here. I'm like, guys, something's big coming. I'm telling you. All right, it looks short-term bullish, but something has to be around the corner. It was around the corner. It happened. It done happened. Okay. Now we have sold down, and, you know, I'm going to tell you, everyone's going to begin bearish. They're going to think, you know, it's like this crate, like the top is in. We're going to be selling quite a bit here. I'm going to tell you, it's probably just going to be a 1 to 2 week sell like we were talking about ahead of time. And yeah, I mean, we had FOMO. Every single little dip has been getting bought up. The market has had FOMO on every single little dip here. 4 months, okay? Not going to guarantee it, but I'm going to say there's an extremely high probability there, extremely high chance that if we return down to previous all-time highs, 613.23 here on SPY, yeah, buyers are probably going to step in. They're finally getting a break and retest off previous all-time highs. All right, I think it's likely to hold. Okay, so let's go over some levels, guys. But you know, just to be clear on ideal path here for the week, it's this. Okay, it's pump followed by further dump. And then, yeah, we'll see if we end up getting bought up over here. But I think there's a solid chance we do. 4-hour RSIs are oversold on just about everything right now. We have SPY, we have QQQ, we have IWM, we have DIA over here. Yes, they can stay oversold, but I think it's more likely that we do end up get that dead cat bounce. We get a little bit of a relief here before they end up taking a dive low. Okay, that is, you know, ideally what I am thinking is going to be going down. Okay, let's go over some levels here on SPY on the upside. All right, I'm actually just going to mark out this gap right there. Okay, on the upside, we have 626.28, 630.77, 633.99, and 639.85. On the downside, you have 621.53, 617.87, 613.23, and just in case that level does not hold right away, we're talking 605.06. That is SPY. Over here on QQQ, upside levels 557.20, 560.80, 563.87, 574.63. On the downside, we have 551.56, 544.66, 540.81, and 536.78. I'm not sure if we're going to get buyers right away over here on QQQ 540.81. So we got these two lower levels that we're going to pay attention to. Underneath 540.81, we have 536.78 and then 532.17. That is this gap that was left open. I don't think we're going to be coming down there, but it is possible. Now, again, I'm just going to restate what I just stated. All right. Everyone's going to be getting real bearish real quick. I am going to tell you, we are in uptrend. We just saw our Trump manufactured market crash over here, and we just climbed the wall of doubt, the wall of worry over here. We're out of it. We're over the wall. We're coming back into it. We're probably going to find buyers at the top of that wall. That's just how things go. All right. Structure gets built in the market. Structures, it's likely going to find buyers and sellers off it. Okay. And now we're pulling back into a key spot. We're probably going to find buyers off it. As you know, the market likes to do the most probable thing. That's the most probable thing. That's what I'll leave it at. But I'm just going to point out, uptrend, sell, you get bought up. Sell, get bought up. Sell, consolidated over here. Now, again, we've been kind of doing a little bit of that. Okay, larger sell lasted 2 weeks of consolidation, one big sell, and then you started getting bought up. I don't think we're about to sit through a 4-week correction just like over there. Like I was saying, we just got to the top of that wall of worry here after our Trump manufactured market crash. We're very likely not going to have this massive sell event happen here. It's just not probable. All right. What is probable is only a few weeks of sell before we can march our way right back up. All right. So I'm just telling you ahead of time, people are going to get real bearish. Your boy over here called for the dump before the thing happened. I also called for the pump to start last week, followed by the dump by the end of the week. All right, so it's not just one side of the equation we got right. We got all of it right. There's no part of that equation we didn't get right. But you're going to have people online that didn't get it right, okay? And they're going to start getting really bearish when it comes down to here. And I need you guys to just take a step back and realize, hey, they weren't right before. They're probably not going to be right now. We probably should just be doing the most probable thing, which is buying at support, buying on the mean reversion here. We broke underneath the daily 21. I do think we are going to get some more downside, but we are just going to revert to the mean on the weekly time frame, which happens to be right around previous all-time highs. If you go back, you can see most of the time you end up taking out the 21 EMA here in the daily time frame. You will come back and retest it before going lower. Doesn't mean it happens every time. Again, Trump manufactured crash over here. Nope, the thing had no relief whatsoever for quite some time. Did not end up testing the 21, but the vast majority of the time, you do end up retesting the 21 when you break under it, okay? You either dance around it here before a larger breakdown, or you will fall on, just retest it. Like here, you retest right there. You broke down that day, oh, the next day you tested it. Oh, you broke down that day, 2 days later, you tested that day, the next day, and 2 days later after that. Okay, so I'm just pointing out, oh, you broke down over here, you retested it. You retested it. You see what I'm saying, guys? All right, so most of the time we do get those retests, and that would align with this little dead cat bounce action we're talking about here. But yeah, I'm just telling you guys, everybody's going to be real bearish. I don't think there's a reason to really be bearish here. Now, I'm just going to come over here to IWM, and I am going to point out, still likely just going to be a dead cat bounce before going lower over here. You're now right here on the 21 EMA. You're either going to get fully bought up next week, and we close the week off at like 222, all right, and you resume back to the upside, or that's not what's going to happen, and we are going to get another 1 to 2 weeks of sell over here on IWM. Right back to the 21 EMA. It reminds me of what we got going on over here, where the next week we saw a little gap up, and then boom, you faded. All right, and then the bottom was in. So there's that. We had quite a sell happen pretty quick here, and I doubt it's just going to continue accelerating here. I think we're probably going to get some relief, and then we will have the nastier part of the sell in the second half of the week into early next week. That's ideally what I'm working with. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, but DIA. Like I said, 4-hour RSI, it was oversold. You're right down to 433.20. That's where you're finding buyers there. That was the next spot underneath 438.70. I think we probably are gonna, get a little bounce into this area before going lower. So that is that. All right, but the levels on SPY and QQ. Let's go over the Mag 7 stocks. I'm just gonna point out Meta and Google are really the only two that I like. And then NVDA, we're gonna wait and see if we get an opportunity there. But Meta over here, guys, big cup and handle pattern. It's very likely that the upside is not done with. I would say Meta and Google are the things that are standing out to me, especially Meta over here in the short term. It's just, earnings just happen. Broad market's doing its own thing. Is this thing going to really go away from the broad market and, push back up the highs? Maybe, but we don't know. We don't know. I'll just tell you the levels over here. Downside 747.90, 737.53, 724.74. On the upside 766, 784.75, 800, 825, 850. Okay, I do think there's a solid chance this thing pulls back this week and just gets bought up through these highs. All right, so that's my opinion. And if it doesn't happen this week, then we know it's just building out something before getting bought up later on. All right, regardless, bullish on Meta. GOOG. All right, so this is the ideal scenario over here. I actually drew this when we were up here. Test dead cat bounce off of the daily 21, fail the dead cat bounce, pull back to the next area of support, 182.5, find buyers around there. That's the ideal scenario over here on GOOG, but I think we're going through something like over here where we're going to retest this area we just broke out from. All right, and we get, maybe 178 to 182.5, we're going to say, okay? But that's what we got over here on GOOG. On the downside, you just have Friday's low. Okay, and then underneath 188.70, you have nothing until 182.45. So that is that. Okay, and on the upside, 192.61, 198.16, 202.88, 208.70. NVDA. All right, looks like a whole hot mess. Let's go over the levels first. On the upside, you have 176.54, 179.38, 183.30, 185, 190. On the downside, you have 170.89, 167.89, 164.58, 158.71, 152.89. Coming over the weekly time frame, let's go over it. Let's take off all of the lines. You have a weekly topping tail. This is either going to go something like this, where you just continue getting bid up. If you do take out 180, if you take out this week's at week's high at 183.30, expect to move up to 190 to come this week. It's very likely going to be the case, because it's either going to be something like that, all right, or we put it in a top and we're going to start going sideways / actually pulling back here, that then gets bought up. I think we are more likely than not going to pull back. Oh, you guys see the arrow I already have drawn over there. All right, towards, I don't think they're going to give us 153 previous all-time high. I think they're probably going to keep you in between 158.71 and 164.58. Regardless, I'm looking for the dip buy opportunity that is probably going to present itself over the coming weeks. Either that or we're taking out the high and we have the momentum trade up to 190 this week. So that's what I'm paying attention to. But that's NVIDIA. Microsoft, guys, does anybody want to buy this? I'm going to keep this short because don't buy this thing up here. Don't buy it up here. I'm just telling you, you want to have a good time, don't buy it up here. All right, doesn't mean it's not going to continue getting bought up, but at this point, why are you going to push your luck? Why are you going to push your luck? This is very obvious, not going like how it did last earnings, big gap up there. All right, you faded the whole entire gap. You either are going to just consolidate here, build something out, and then move up, or you consolidate here and move down, or you just fade. We absolutely don't know, but I'm telling you, long or short, you're messing with something that you might not understand, because the thing's not going to be doing much of anything here with where you are right now. You have absolutely no edge going on right now. You can think, oh, the thing's going to fall off a cliff here, but guess what? You have the daily 21 sitting here. You have all this, 3 weeks of structure sitting right here, and you just had a very nasty sell going on here. Chances are you don't just knife right through it. You can, but like I'm telling you, long or short, you're a gambler, my friend. You're a gambler, and you were just guessing. All right, and that's okay. Okay, that's okay, but just accept what it is. That is Microsoft. Amazon over here, guys. Bulls are not going to like me for this one. I do think we're going to be coming down lower. You closed right at the weekly 21 EMA. That reminds me of what you had going on here. Reminds me of what you had going on here. You had this aggressive sell there. You got a dead cat bounce the next week. You got sold. Expected to keep coming down. Daily RSI is probably going to reach oversold territory at some point or another. You are in this golden pocket here, but the larger golden pocket from the whole move up, the 0.618 fib, is at 190. Do I think we come down there? No, I do not. I think we're probably going to see, around $200 though, if I had to take a guess. All right, that is going to be a key level from all the way over here, and it does look like that brings a lot of reactions into the mix. So I do think we're probably going to be coming down. I'll just make that a blue level down here at 201.20 is the level that stands out to me. That's Amazon. Apple, don't touch it. That's all I have to say. Okay. This thing, until it breaks above 216.23, just don't touch it long. All right. And don't touch it short. Just don't do anything with it. There are stocks that you don't have to freaking trade. All right. And Apple is one that I think takes another few months to really set anything up for us. If this thing does end up getting underneath 189.81, it probably is going to start making its way back down to these lows. And I'm going to be so done with this ticker, okay? Because you did all this crap just to do that crap, just to then make your way down here, and you did it in the most unpredictable, slow manner possible. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So don't drive yourself crazy, all right? And just avoid the ticker until it gets above 216. Tesla. Another one that, like, you really just don't know which way it's going to break. You don't have an edge long or short here. You really do not. If it can break above 338, it probably is going to start moving above 367.71, and then boom, you have a larger move back up to all-time highs in your hand. But until that happens, you got nothing. You got dog shit. You got doo-doo. You got absolutely diddly squat over here. Don't touch it. Okay? That's what I have. Okay, that's what I have for you over here on Tesla. Don't touch the dog doo-doo. Underneath 341, you have nothing till 288.77, 273.21 under there. Guess what? You took out 341 on Friday, and you found buyers. Okay? You know, I'm going to be straight up. I have no fucking clue where this thing is going in the short term. I have absolutely no idea. I have a lower trend line. I have an upper trend line. One of those is going to break. You already started breaking this one to the downside here. All right, so I have to assume you're going to keep selling. But I'll tell you, this thing is completely irrational, and you got no business trading it. Stay the fuck away from it. All right, pardon my French. Sorry I'm pissing anybody off with the language, but let's be completely real about it. We are all adults, and yeah, I guess don't watch me on a TV. But also, I try and limit my language, so I also pardon my French. My apologies, okay? But those are the Mag 7 stocks over here, guys. Let's go over some trade ideas going into next week. First one, we're going to kick it off with VST. This is the one that I was pounding the table last week. It was starting to get this breakout. I've actually been pounding the table the last 2 weeks here. It's just kind of pretty obvious that it was going to be taking out these highs. You didn't do it over like you did. You swept the high, but regardless, in this pullback, it's pretty obvious there. All right. Nonetheless, guys, big sell on Friday. What happened over here? You got bought up off the break and retest at 200, and you almost took out 213.05. Expect this to continue making new highs this week. We're talking 220, 230. You do have earnings. I think earnings is probably going to be a nothing burger, and then, you know, the technicals are just going to prevail, and we're probably going to keep climbing higher. Okay, VST. Cost. Follow the Twitter. Link is down below if you're not already on there. I gave you guys the trade idea before Friday. It was actually Thursday after the close there. You could have gotten in for the actual trade idea at the price we talked about it. This is a 4-9X, 919, 1000C over here on cost. Regardless, guys, I think we might be basing out over here the next 1 to 2 weeks, and I think we're probably going to be moving up to 1040 to 1080. All right, just give it some time. I'd say a month and a half. 919 expiration, it's a solid bet. Okay, I do think it's probably going to be the case. All right. I do. That I do. This took 42 bars there. This, well, 42 days, 28 bars, 70 days, 3 weeks, 6 weeks. If this thing is going to happen, 6 weeks. All right. So we have conservative time frame, conservative amount of points we went up. Okay. Lowest, highest. 42 days by September 11th. Okay. That'll be 42 days from the day that the trade idea was generated, and the minimum target is 1040. Okay, they're going to be, the 1000C is going to be going for $4,000 at 1040, and they go for $8,000 at 1080 all-time highs. One of the two is likely going to be hit in that time frame. Regardless, over the next 1 to 2 weeks, we're looking at some sort of base to play out or to build out, and then after that, we get our impulsive move that I personally want to be taking advantage of. Okay, but that is cost. Again, follow the Twitter if you're not already on there. It's X. That link is going to be down below. APP, guys, 6 out of 6 last earnings reports. Lowest gain on that day after was 11.8%. All right, we have a 1, we have a 2, we have a 3, 4, 5, 6, and here's going to be the 7th. 6 out of 6 for a straight year and a half. You have gotten a minimum of an 11.8% move, and that was right over here. The high of day there, you got a 18% move. That is like us going from where we are right now all the way up to 450. I'll tell you, premiums are juiced over here, but they are, it's justified, okay? Because you probably are going to get another big move over here. If you want to really play this one, you know, safely, in my opinion, 919 expiration, I think you're probably going to catch a move back up to all-time highs and you're going to get paid. That is, yeah, but again, it's a pretty penny. Okay, so premiums they're juiced up there, but they're for good reason, because some of these things have 20 to 30% moves. Okay, this is 24%. This was 46%. This over here, 14%. This over here, 25%. Oh, we have another one. Wow, look at that. And you could just keep going. Honestly, yeah, no, this is like 8 out of 8 reports now. You've gotten this big freaking gap up. It's a very safe bet if you're just playing with time, in my personal opinion. All right, put in what you're willing to risk. All right, what you're willing to lose there. But just know 8 out of 8. Oh my God, 9 out of 9. This is getting a little crazy. Oh, 10 out of 10, baby. Okay, 10 out. Oh, 11 out of 11. Guys, what the fuck is happening over here? Pardon my French again. Oh, 12 out of 12. Oh, 13 out of 13. What the heck is wrong with APP over here? Holy sweet baby Jesus. We got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13. Guys, that's 3 freaking years right there. 3.5 years. APP has been having these 10 to 20% moves every single earnings that's happened over here. All right. I'm going to point out pump and dump over here, but what do you get? A 13% gap up. All right, what do you get over here? Yeah, you got to sell. But again, with the 25% gap up over here, what do you got going on? 20%. What do you got going on over here? Okay, from the close, you got a 37% gap. What the heck is wrong with this ticker over here? All right, 13, 14% gap up right there. What happened over here, you ask? Oh, it was the first day you actually got nothing. I take it back. We didn't get shit over there. Okay. But, regardless, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Guys, that is about 3 years there where this thing has gotten like a minimum of this 11.8% gain. APP, put it on the radar, expect it to make a big earnings move. 919 expiration is how you're safely going to catch it. Okay. But in reality, there's a few ways to trade this thing. Regardless, I'm going to put one on your radar right now. You got that 919 idea there. You could play the 815 contracts. Just know they are going to be juiced up. They are definitely going to be juiced up, guaranteed. Okay? And the super safe way to play it, you're not playing it ahead of earnings. You are seeing if the thing doesn't move off of earnings. If this thing decides to gap down or stay flat off of the earnings overnight, expect a crazy short squeeze intraday. At that point, we get the best possible entry on options, on calls. And at that point, we're getting paid for probably that 5 to 10x. Okay. So that's APP. Definitely a top watch for this week for myself personally. Rocket Lab right off the daily 21, third time out of 4 trading sessions here that you're finding buyers off that 21 EMA. Take out 48.17, probably going to pop its way back up to 53.44 and go 55 plus. But I do like how this thing is shaping up over here. You do have earnings this week. Another earnings one, guys. If this thing pops up, pulls back off of earnings, like gaps down, expect that to be bought. All right. You had this last earnings move right over here. You did have a big move down off of earnings, but within 1 session, it started getting bought up. And then within 3 sessions, you went from 20 to 24. That is about a 25% move. That can pay. Okay. You see big gap down over here. Guess what? You saw a 20%, 25% recovery intraday. So again, Rocket Lab, it's really, you could play it before earnings, but I think really the move, at least for myself, is going to be if we get that gap down off of these earnings, I'm going to be a buyer. All right. / I'm going to, over the next few days, I'm going to be a buyer. All right. So that's Rocket Lab. Wing is one that it's not necessarily an idea for this week. It might just continue up past 388.14 this week, but ideally it sets up for not this week, but next week. Okay. We just had earnings. We know it's likely going to continue. Ideally, it puts in one of these weeks right here. Ideally, it will just consolidate here for us all week, have a really tight range there, and then it continues going up after that. Okay, with another big, nice 10 to 20% move for us to catch. And at that point, maybe we catch this. Okay, maybe we catch this move 450, 460. Not this week, but next week. That is Wing. RDDT, Reddit. Congrats. If anybody ended up playing Reddit, I personally had it on your radar for past 2 weeks here, just kind of waiting for it to break up from over here. It did end up just waiting for earnings to make its move, of course, and now it looks like it's heading back up to all-time highs. Please do not be someone trying to short this thing. You can, but I'm going to be completely honest. I think you're doing a very stupid thing, and you got no business doing so. It is probably going to go like the last time it had this big earnings move up, which it resulted in it just kind of continuing to grind higher over the coming months. Next week, it could also be a big week over here if it's going to go something like that. All right, we very well can, we get a nice 10 to 15% week going over here, and I think 210 to 220 can come in the short term. Regardless of if we get that squeezer of a move following that, I do think this is likely going to get above 200 this week. So dips are buying opportunities over here on Reddit 174.22. That's where you're watching on the dip. All right, but honestly, I don't think it's going to get that. I think we're probably going to have this crap where we don't get any meaningful pullback. We just continue grinding higher. Okay, so this crap right here. Okay, that's Reddit. Walmart. I think it's about time, but we also have earnings in 2 weeks from now. Yeah, it's like 2.5. Regardless, you're pushing right up, guys, above 995. We're talking 105 to 110 over the coming 1 to 2 weeks from there. Probably going to make its part of that move off of earnings. I imagine we start pushing up into earnings, and then we have a blow-off kind of move off of earnings. And maybe that brings us 108, 110. All right. MCD. MCD is one I put on your radar right here on this day right here. So you guys had an option to buy it there. All right, you were targeting 298.86. Guess what? Then it based out, had this bull flag. I gave it to you guys right here coming into last week as well. All right, well, it's a Monday's video, I believe, there. Above 299.91, we're going to be targeting 302.79. And then above there, 305.12. All right, we ended up getting both of those were hit those days. And now we pulled back. And now we have earnings coming in hot this week, and I do think it's not a move to hold through the earnings, but I will definitely be watching this thing for move back up the highs post earnings. I think that's going to be taking place over the coming weeks. I think this is building out some structure here on the daily time frame, and it is getting ready to finally get above 305 this week. Okay, so that is MCD. PLTR, guys, if it presents a dip buy opportunity off earnings, it is going to be just that, a dip buy opportunity. This was the last big earnings sell over here. Within 2 days, you were back up almost to those highs. You had a pretty big recovery off those 106 all the way up to 120. All right, most of these big sells that have been happening over here on PLTR, within a few sessions, they start getting bought up. I'm going to expect that to continue being the theme. All right, so I'm not telling anybody to buy it before earnings. All right, I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe it does, have this crazy gap up again, but probably not with how far it's ran. I think the move is just to wait to see if we end up getting that pullback, and we're going to try and look for a move up off of that. All right, but I do think you have this flat top set up, and it would not surprise me on Monday to get above 160.39. All right, you have earnings Monday after the close. Uber, all right, Uber over here at the bottom of this descending parallel channel. I again don't think it's a move to play it before earnings. I think it is just something that we want to be participating in after earnings and seeing if we could get this thing back up and running. We're pulling back into the weekly 21 EMA. This honestly, you really didn't get all that big of a move here. This could all just be looked at as consolidation. We really have not done anything over here on Uber. All right, weekly 21 EMA, you're pulling back into it. 85.25 gap is starting to bring buyers back into the mix. You're at the lower trend line of that parallel channel. If you could break above 90, probably starting a larger move back up to highs, okay? But after earnings, as long as you don't fall off a cliff here, if we start, let's just say earnings keep you right here, and then you push through 90, that's when I'm interested in taking it back up here. Not before earnings. XYZ, guys, I'm just a little update. Just a little update, guys. Weekly cloud ended up flipping bullish over here, over here, over here, over here. All right. I gave it to you guys on that week right over there. Thing ended up making a move. Now you have earnings. I'm telling you, it's probably going to have a negative earnings reaction. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but either a nothing burger that kills premiums or a negative earnings reaction is likely over here on, I was about to say Square because that was the last ticker over here. XYZ. They have changed. Square, the block. Oh, Jesus. I miss SQ. It's this XYZ crap. All right. Regardless, guys, probably going to be crushing premiums off earnings. You played the whole thing, the whole move I was talking about on XYZ. You caught it, so you don't really have a reason to touch it into earnings. Oklo is still one that I think is going to be making a comeback here. It's still going to be making this big move above 80. And yeah, getting going. But you do have earnings, so I'm not exactly sure exactly how it's going to go. SMR also had a bit of a flat top setup going on over there as well. You pulled back. I have to assume we're still going to be breaking up above 53.39 here in the short term and really getting up to 60 bucks. You do have earnings this week. I do think it's probably going to bring in a bullish reaction into the stock. That's my opinion there. Okay. So we could just see, actually we'll come over the daily time frame. All right. You had this, what was that? It was after the bell. Okay. So you had a nice move up off of earnings there, 20% move, but really, do you guys see what I see? You had a 5% gap up. That's barely anything. Premiums definitely got crushed there. And then you had a 20% move intraday. That's what I want you guys to focus on this week if we get it, okay? Over here, you got the gap down, and then intraday, a 20% move, all right? So now we got two 20% moves off of these earnings events. And notice the theme I have here in today's video. It's not buying before earnings. It's playing it after earnings when premiums get crushed. I need everybody to understand that before attempting these trades that I am talking about right now, because I promise if you're not treating them like that, you're going to get wrecked. All right, so just realize that is how options work. But this is another day you got a gap down and then off the low. You had a 20% move. Guys, that is 3 of them in a row. Do we have another? Do we have another? Oh, you have a gap down that day and then off the low. A 17, 18% move. We have another, ladies and gents. And, you know, I think that is the end of the big bullish reactions over here. No, it's not. No, it's not. You know, you got that going on right over there. You got that going on right over there. Okay, I know you end up having this gap up, but oh, actually, no, it was right here. You had the gap down, and what happened again off the gap down? Another 20% day. All right, what about this one over here? You didn't really move off of earnings, a 15% day. So now at this point, you know, I'm just gonna say it with confidence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is one of the top watches. If we see a gap down / no movement off of earnings, specifically a gap down, we look to buy it. You have this fixed amount of money that you are willing to risk, you are willing to lose. You fully accept that this money can go to shit. It can go to zero, but we just identified that 6 out of 6 times you could have taken that same exact bet. And I'm definitely going to tell you this setup over here, weekly, monthly time frames, suggests it's got more upside left in the tank. All right, but 6 out of 6 times, even though that sounds risky, Henry, the money goes to zero. Dude, put fucking $100, maybe it goes to $1,000. Put $1,000, maybe it goes to $10,000. That's the type of trade I'm giving you with these earnings trades. Okay, they're not things that, you know, it's not your ideal swing trades over here where, you know, it's a full on, you're waiting for this thing to play out. No, this is, if this condition happens, this likely follows. You can take a weekly options contract or multiple, and you maybe get a 5 to 10x. Okay, those are the trade ideas I'm giving you around these earnings. I'm not telling anybody to hold into earnings. I'm telling you, APP, I probably will hold into earnings there, but I'll tell you, all the other ones I just mentioned, all right, the move is to wait for premiums to be crushed. And then you play the post-earnings move. All right, and APP, let's say, the thing is probably just going to have this crazy sick gap up like all the other times. That was 11 times, I think we pointed out. They've had like minimum 12% move. Intraday, the minimum move was like 18%. Like nuts fucking moves, guys. But, you know, SMR over here, really the whole idea here is you get no movement off the overnight move, and then you are playing for that squeeze potential that next day. And that happens 6 out of 6 times here, 15 to 25% moves. All right, that is a big deal. Okay, let's just say you gap down to 42 bucks somehow. What happens? 20% move brings you up to 50. 8 points out of the money. You could probably buy a weekly contract, $2 to 3 points out the money for $1. That means it goes $5 into the money. There's your 5x gain. Let's say the next day is another big one, another 5-point move. Now you're at 10x. All right. These are how you're going to trade these things. It's not anything to bet farms on. It's not like your normal swing trade. These are quick. All right. Quick. But I hope you guys have a blast with them. I really do. All right. And with that being said, guys, that's what I have for you guys in today's video. By the way, Oklo is another one just like that. It just SMR is the one I'm going to focus on this week because the setup we just talked about. All right, but Oklo also has earnings not this week but next Monday. Also probably going to be making some moves with SMR, but SMR is the one that I'm going to be focused on. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please just remember to leave a like. If you want to come trade with me, because guys, I know the market is freaking hectic, but I will do my damn best. I will give you all I got there to make sure you have a good time in the market. You know, even if you're messing up in your own trades, I guarantee I will give you everything that's hot all the time, every single day. Maybe not everything. Maybe we will miss some, but you know, I'll tell you, if it's moving in the market, okay, if you got the movement to make money off it, I'll tell you what's movement. I'll tell you what's happening every single day. On top of that, you could come trade with me. I will be live every single morning until 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. But yeah, with that being said, guys, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. I know the market's hectic, but I just laid out some game plans for you guys as well as myself on how we might just fucking nail it next week. Okay. So guys, you know, I'm just going to tell you my approach here. Leave the Mag 7 stocks alone for the time being. None of them are probably going to have good price action for the time being. Like, they are probably going to be doing their own things. All right, the market might continue selling this week, pump and dump. But the setups that I just provided to you at the end of this video, I know it's a long video. It's 40 minutes. I know. All right, but anybody is willing to just sit through them. You know what you need to make the money every single week. All right, every single week. These are setups that are going to be doing their own things. They all, you know, I didn't derive the setups off of the market, okay? A lot of stocks I covered, they go with the market. These are all ones that can do their own thing, okay? So I want you guys to have a great fucking time next week. Pardon my French, but have the best damn time you possibly can, all right? And my approach, stay out of the things that are going to be moving with the market until we are sure that we, you know, probably have a short-term bottom in place. Then we start playing the momentum back to the upside. But for the time being, my focus is going to be on names like I just pitched to you guys. These, you know, past 10 plus names here. These are the names that I want to focus. You guys want another earnings bet, just like I just talked about? No, you don't want to be holding HIMS into earnings. But if it has a gap down or doesn't move off of earnings, you have yourself this scenario right here, or this scenario right over here where you have this gap down, and then boom, off the lows, you end up going 20%. Off the lows over here, you didn't end up going down at all off the open, but it was a 32% move. That's money, okay? So if we see something like that, these are the things you could take advantage of. Even over here, all right, if you bought the gap down right there off open, you probably did get crushed. All right, maybe you did make your money back by the time it came back up, but you know, IV probably would have been high there anyway. But call premium still would have been completely shot. So there's a solid shot off that. You know, yes, you had to sit through 10% down, but it did have the 8% move up off the open there. And that, if it happened first, that is a couple 100%, you know, you could have had there. But even if it did pull back and then you sat through it and then just come back up, all right, even then, you probably still did pull out 50 to 100% on weeklies over there, okay? So, you know, around these earnings plays, guys, it's not the move to hold through them. It really is to play the move after they happen, okay? And HIMS is another one that I think has a monster setup in the making over here on the weekly time frame. And if we don't get that big gap up off earnings Monday after the close, if we don't get that, guys, I think we might have a short squeeze on our hands, and for the rest of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we might get some solid freaking upside action over here on HIMS, all right? So you got a lot of hot setups over here to focus on that aren't going to be doing their thing with the market. They're going to be doing their own thing off of their own, you know, respective charts here, okay? So you have what you need to not shit the bed in this market, protect yourself in this market. The market, we talked about that at the beginning of the video. VIX is probably going to stay elevated. The most probable scenario is it pulls back to start the week as everything gets these dead cat bounces, and then we sell down through the lows on everything as VIX spikes back up through the highs into end of week / into the rest of the week. All right? If you know that, don't get tricked by that initial move up / focus on trading these stocks that we just outlined that are probably going to be moving, you know, now with the market. My favorites on that list: VST, Cost, APP, Rocket Lab. All right. Those are my favorites right there. HIMS, I hope it presents the setup. I really do. We nailed it last week on HIMS. Congrats if anybody else ended up making money off that. You nailed the move up on HIMS. And now it's time to take a chill pill and just wait if we get the oh so glorious setup here to present itself. We're going to see if it happens, okay? But with that being said, guys, if you want to come trade with me, that link is down below. And then other than that, guys, go check out the Twitter. Every single day, we do have these YouTube updates, but I will also be throwing some things at you, all right, over on Twitter. And if you find value over here in these videos, I promise, I put my name on it, I guarantee it, you'll find even more value over there on that Twitter, okay? With that being said, guys, everybody have a lovely rest of their day. I look forward to killing it with y'all next week. And with that being said, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.